And I look for the fun of it too, because I need an element of fun. I need to be engaged somehow. And I guess maybe experimenting with it has created a little bit of adventurous atmosphere. So that keeps me engaged. And, I'm hoping it develops into this subconscious habit that I never have to think about again.
Welcome to Chumble's Habit Hero series, where I speak to people brave enough to start their habit adventures and let us in on their highs and lows. I'm Robin, and today we're joined by Michelle. Michelle shares how she introduced exercise and meditation. We'll discuss how she exceeded her expectations, the power of changing perspectives, and how her outcome focus cost her in the past. Enjoy.
Let's dig straight into it. What has got you interested in habits?
Well, it's funny. I think I've always dabbled in habits. I mean, who hasn't? I feel like it goes back to the days of New Year's resolutions. I haven't necessarily been successful in with that mindset. And well, because I met you and we've talked in length about how passionate you are about forming habits and having them stick, I was hoping to get a different perspective on how to actually execute that. And so, that's what made me want to join Chumble and have that experience.
Nice, amazing. And then you already mentioned that you already tried some habits in terms of in the course of New Year's resolutions and kind of that whole structure. Did you have specific habits that you wanted to focus on?
Like in my past or currently?
In your past.
I mean, I did. It's just it depends. I guess when you sit there and evaluate your life over the year's span and then say, okay, I'm going to do this X, Y, and Z for the new year. The habits changed based on my life experiences. But, in general, they were mostly related to health and keeping in shape. Mindfulness is new, newer, more new. But, it's just, I guess, a further progression within those realms generally.
Nice. No, I love that. And especially the health and of course the mindfulness that you already mentioned. Of course, these are things that in your Chumble journey you've also focused on. What are some of the biggest learnings that you have gained from your habit building journey?
So for me, I think the biggest epiphany has been that, in the past, I tended to really want to change something and go at it with 150%, 200%, whatever it was. And I'd get super excited and I'd do it for a month straight. And then I would completely burn out or lose interest or get too busy. And I've been doing that for years, So when we talked about chumbling and the concept of, taking these smaller pieces towards the bigger goal, I was like, okay, this is a new perspective in a sense. And I wasn't completely convinced that it would make a big difference, but I'm really happy with the results. So I am grateful for that discovery because it's made habits fun in a sense, because there is an element of success finally that hasn't seemed to disappear after the first month.
Amazing. No, and you also mentioned obviously the strategy of tumbling, breaking it down into smaller pieces. What exactly did that look like for you concretely in terms of your goal?
I think that I used to be completely attached to the outcome of things. So I would set these goals, but the image I had in my head was already the end result. It negated the entire journey to get there. And in the process of trying to execute it, I would get frustrated in the sense that I'm not here yet. I'm not here yet. I'm not here yet. I'm like, okay, you've been doing it for a month, whatever. So when I started to break it down into smaller pieces, the attachment towards the end result became less and the journey became more important, which was really cool to see, to experience, so yeah, I think that's my biggest takeaway is I'm actually enjoying the process over the product, over the end result. Yeah.
Nice. And of course, like it's a huge mindset shift.
Yeah.
So I think you can be very proud of that. Amazing job. And then, so you mentioned that like breaking these big goals, these outcome goals down into like enjoying the process. What are some of the things that you work on? You already mentioned the health and the mindfulness. What did those look like to you specifically, and perhaps still today?
Some of the specific habits I was working on was trying to develop a daily meditation routine. Well, daily, let's say 4 times a week,
Yeah.
just to make sure that I'm constantly working at it. Working out, which is my Achilles heel, but not so much. It is and it isn't. I have more resistance to it. You know, I started this this new habit, which has been really great, and I found it in the Artist's Way, and I call it the Great Purge, but it's basically a mind dump of 3 pages every morning. Yeah, I really like that one. I also have a date with myself every week, which is kind of really cool. What else is on my list? Well, there's the Candida cleanse, but that's temporary, so it's not like I expect to carry that. But I'll tell you one thing that I have noticed by doing it is that I am so much more aware of food. Like everything, like I told you, I've been reading labels. I'm like, sugar's in this for real? Like, really? Come on. And so that awareness will carry over. Being so strict about it, probably not.
No, and I think like the fact that you're already aware of these shifts happening and some of your success factors and maybe some of the things that you don't like so much is already a huge takeaway and something that you can take with you in future habit experiments. So I think that's amazing. And then you also mentioned like exercise being your Achilles heel. Could you share that challenge with us? How exactly does it look like, and how do you keep motivated? How do you keep at it, even though it's a challenge?
For me, the resistance comes in starting. Like once I'm in it, I enjoy doing it. I actually enjoy exercising. It's like oh, okay, am I doing this right now? Like what kind of exercise am I doing? And can I stay consistent with it? So my biggest problem in the past was getting all excited to start something, having the time to do it. So I had time off and I would just go gun ho and I'd really enjoy it. And then I'd start working again and my hours would be crazy and all over the place. And I'd end up quitting. And so I guess the new approach is, okay, I've broken it down to a very small increments, which has been super helpful actually. So I'm like, can I fit in a 15-minute workout? And you know, there's all kinds of workouts, and I've actually been exploring a whole bunch of videos. I'm like, all right, let's try this one. Let's see what this feels like. And I look for the fun of it too, because I need an element of fun. I need to be engaged somehow. And I guess maybe experimenting with it has created a little bit of adventurous atmosphere. So that keeps me engaged. And, you know, I'm hoping it develops like, you know, into this subconscious habit that I never have to think about again.
No, I think like as you become consistent with it, of course, in the end, it turns into your identity, but it does take a bit of time. But I think like just by being aware of this process and all of these simple strategies, like cutting it into smaller exercises so that you keep moving, you don't break that cycle, and no, it's amazing to hear, Michelle. It's really, really cool. Nice. So obviously a whole list of amazing habits that you're working on. If you look at some of the benefits that you have gained from these habits, what would they look like?
Well, you know, there's a sense of accomplishment that comes along with like actually succeeding at what you've said you're going to do, which is really great. And I think that affects like in general, like the whole of life. But there's also this like you know, I don't know if this is the right way of putting it, but there's been like a relievement of boredom in a sense. Like when you find these moments where you're like, I don't know what to do right now. And you look at your habit list. I'm like, oh, I haven't done this yet. Maybe I should do this instead. And instead of sitting there and like debating or being on a screen or I don't know, wasting time somehow, there's a productivity that happens when you check off this habit and you're like, oh, I'm going to do this now. Okay, cool. So yeah, I found that really interesting too. It's like filled in some gaps.
Yeah, amazing. So with that, like, would you experience that as like a sense of momentum as well? That like you hit certain checks and now that motivates you to keep going?
Absolutely. I mean, look, when I started this journey with you, the process was really fun and interesting and enlightening. And then I feel like I've started a second course, in a sense, a second wave, and taking what I learned from the first wave and refining it to the point where it worked better for me. And all of a sudden it's just become this ride that I'm on, and started off at 30 miles an hour and now we're going 45. Ooh, that's exciting, right? And
No, I think that's amazing. No, and I think also like it's amazing, like when we speak about habits, we often discuss like the physical benefits, like we're more physically fit, we're calmer, we're whatever. But I think like that mind shift in terms of like becoming more confident, gaining that momentum so that we can keep going, is in many cases actually even more important than the physical benefits that we gain. So it's amazing to see like the again like the growth that you experience on that mental level.
Yeah, I'm very much so a mental person.
Yeah. No, I love that. No. And then like of course like journeys are not only full of successes and benefits and all of that beautiful stuff. What are some of the challenges that you still face today?
Consistency, only with some of the habits, has been sort of a challenge, in the sense like like I said, I'll put stuff off that I feel resistance to. But I guess the flip side of that is I haven't eliminated it completely. It hasn't gone away. It's still like, it's like finding that fine line that keeps you motivated to say, okay, all right, you fucked this one up last week. Let's do it right this week.
Amazing. And then, so you already mentioned like one way in which you kind of pick yourself back up, like, oh, let's go into it. Let's turn this into a success. What are some of the practical ways in which you help yourself do that?
It's interesting. Sometimes I play with what the habit means, because I like to story tell, so I story tell to myself. I'm like, okay, well, why do you want to do this? And going back to the initial steps of finding your why, I think sometimes the why comes out as superficial in the beginning, and so it's getting to that deeper meaning of why. And some of these things on my list, like, they've been on my list for a long time. So I think once you have that solid why, whatever it is, it gives you a reason to keep showing up. I also believe that if you even feel resistance, it doesn't matter as long as you show up. So there's a shift in that too. It's basically like, okay, we're doing this, just try it out. Okay, if it's not the best thing ever, we can change it. It's not like something that's set in stone. So it's fluid. Habit formation, and I think setting goals in general have to be fluid. So
no, I love that. No, I think that's amazing, Michelle. I think that's giving yourself that flexibility and not being too strict on yourself in those kind of situations. It's so important for our success, because I think also, like, again, it goes down to that momentum that we spoke about. Like when you're on habit streak and like you get all excited, like, oh, I can do this. Like if you if you set fixed goals and like you don't want to change them, you also put yourself in a situation where the likelihood of you failing actually increases significantly. So by being flexible, you are giving yourself a much better chance of being successful, of hitting those habits and turning it into a big success.
Well, you know, sometimes I have to squash the little perfectionist that sits on my shoulder and like, and you know, I am way better at that than I used to be. So I actually find that sometimes you discover the most in your so-called failures than you do if you just like, oh yeah, okay, you know, 100%, A+, whatever it is, checked all the boxes. That's not as exciting somehow.
Yeah, no, and I think it's unrealistic as well. It's not always going to be that way. So when we create an image where we expect ourselves to be that way, we're again setting ourselves up for failure.
I agree, Robin.
Nice. So a final question that I wanted to ask you is for people wanting to start their own habit building journeys, what is one piece of advice that you would give to them?
I would say habits, it's about perspective. And I would ask them to take whatever they've been doing with their habits and look at it through with a different pair of eyes and see, you know, if they can refine it in a way that makes sense to them. So, you know, you can take any story and create a drama, a comedy, a horror, pick it with the same elements. It's the same thing with building habits. It is about mindset, but it's also about how you look at it. So yeah, I think that would be my piece of advice is try to look at it from a different perspective and play with it. And until you land on something that makes sense and makes you motivated to keep going.
Yeah, no, I love that. And then so looking at my habits from a different perspective, what is a practical way in which I could do that? Would you say I could write it down? I could explain it to myself in a mirror, or what exactly does it look like?
Oh, I think both of those are great. I think if you write down what it is you're feeling or thinking at that moment, you'll see the perspective you're in. And if you take a look at it and you don't like it, then you just write a piece of fiction and say, well, this is, you know, this is how I would like to be. And write that piece of fiction down and read it a couple of times and see how it makes you feel. Maybe that's the perspective you want to adapt or, you know, adjust to. Also, talking in the mirror to yourself is great. I mean, come on now. But, you know, I feel like to really dig into it, you have to dig into yourself. And to dig into yourself, sometimes you need something physical to look at, which is why writing is great. If you need more of an interaction, use the mirror. It's also a great tool.
No, I think that's amazing, Michelle. Thank you for your for sharing your story so openly and the great piece of advice. Yeah, it was lovely to chat today.
It was fun to chat today. We should do it more often, Robin.
You should. All right. I hope you have a lovely day.
Thank you, you too.